I want to ask a man like you, this applies to me and to a lot of people. How can we go about maybe controlling the controllers so nobody can never scare us or intimidate us or put us down or just in general frighten us?
Well, first of all, you have to learn the little meditation technique in the books.
Right.
Once you've got that technique, learning to turn yourself on and off.
Yes.
You learn that the name of the game is they get to upset you, they get to control you. But
right.
if you learn not to be upset, you stay cool, like 007,
right.
and you understand the game they're playing with your brain,
right.
that when they see they can't upset you,
right.
they get upset because they can't upset you, and then you control the controller.
Say that one more time. I like that. Say that one more. I love that. Say it one more time. Right.
Because the whole game of people is
right.
to do some mean little trick.
Right.
And the method to their madness is try to get you off balance, angry. But if you become angry, then he gets inside you and plays with your brain, and they play with your brain in different ways. You feel guilty, and you make up to them, and they give you something they want you to do. Mothers do that. Fathers do that.
A lot of people just said, my goodness, I needed that. Does any of this, Mr. Lee Frank, mean anything to you? Anything you've heard so far from Roy Masters today?
It sure does. It makes sense to me. I'm a person who spends so much time in my own little dream world, but then again, I'm very well known there. So
we've been hearing much about the humorous writings and the humorous performances of a man named Lee Frank, who addresses himself to the issues of today based on all these write-ups here, and he does it comedically. And I'm going to let Roy, who I know.
But you know, it's not funny though when he says he spends a lot of time in his dream world.
Right.
And he's very well known. I dug that.
Right.
And I'm going to ask him what humor is in just a minute. But
right.
that's not very good. It's very dangerous for a person to spend time in their dream world because they lose sight of reality. And when you don't deal with reality properly, that's where most people go, into their dream world. And that disables them from dealing with stress and reality even more. So it sets them up to fail. See? Anybody can be a matador and win in their brain, but it's another thing to win in the bull ring. So you disintegrate, becoming a knight in shining armor in your brain.
So should he daydream or night dream, or neither dream?
No, neither one. If you could help, if you could learn what humor is without spending time in a fantasy or imagination, you'd be better off.
Just a joke.
Thank God.
Obviously, reality is the key to comedy.
It is, isn't it? Shocking people to reality.
What is the comedy scene today? What's going? What's popular? How do you fit in with it? And let's make some friends for a man with a lot of fans out there named Lee Frank.
Well, the comedy scene is very, very different today than it was, say, 40 years ago, when you would learn to become a comic by studying some books, going to the library, or going out and stealing Milton Berle's act. Today, I think people have a lot more demands about the comedy they hear, what they find funny. I think they want to get down to the bones of a comedian. I think that if somebody wants to be funny, they have to get out there and tell how they see the world.
What is humor? I know humor when I hear it, but I couldn't make up something funny. I can be funny when I'm giving a lecture and it comes out naturally. And we all have a laugh, and I see it's funny too. Spontaneous, but I can't invent a funny.
Well, it's my job. I have to invent funny.
Then what is funny that you can invent it? I don't know what it is.
Well, first you have to recognize the bozos wherever they are. You know, Jonathan Swift once said that his satire points at no defect, but what all mortals may correct. In other words, humor satire is ridiculing representative vices for the general betterment of your audience. So
ridiculing
representative vices. In other words, an audience has to find something relevant.
It's a relief of some kind of pain, of embarrassment.
Well,
like somebody slipping on a banana skin and it's funny.
That's what I like. Now, I'll tell you, Lee, I love that. Now, I mentioned before about they showed a comedy from the film festival. I said that I still like the baggy pants, the Seltzer bottle routines, the slapstick routines. I like
Pie in the Face.
I like Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy. I would only hope that humor...
Why?
Because it makes me... I hope that humor goes in cycles, like Styles, like Mores. I hope that humor someday goes back to what I like.
Listen, I like that too, but then it embarrasses me to see why I like it. Because it's always somebody's disadvantage that I like.
Why do we like to see somebody
losing their dignity?
Why do we like to see somebody lose their dignity or lose their pants? Why?
Well, I think secretly because we're relieved it isn't us.
You got that feeling, right?
Funny thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think that...
But isn't there something more funny than that? I mean, that's not so funny.
There are lots of different brands of humor, sure. And laughing on the banana peel is only one brand. I mean, Carl Reiner once said that watching somebody laugh on a banana peel is comedy. When it happens to yourself, it's tragedy.
Who said that?
Carl Reiner.
He's a funny man.
He's a funny man.
You know who we ought to mention once in a while, Lee? The people who kept America laughing during the Depression when we needed... I wasn't there, of course, neither were you, but people like Eddie Cantor, Jack Benny, when people needed their spirit, Red Skelton, people needed their spirits lifted in the dark days, right?
You bet. And they serve as models for comedians who are out there today.
Who do you like?
Could it be Jack Benny? I mean, you look at Johnny Carson, and he's doing Jack Benny's entire style.
Yes,
and
right.
It's great.
Well, could it be that people's lives are very bleak because they're reacting to stress and unhappiness is getting inside them and things are going wrong? And they need their humor like they need their fix from like cocaine or aspirin.
Sure.
In other words, that you come in a bottle, and you open the bottle and you make them laugh and they go home.
Temporary relief from
Wouldn't it be better if they could
slings and arrows of outrageous misfortune, and that's what we all have to deal with daily. We're all walking the edge.
You see, in my home, there's so much humor naturally that we don't have to see a comedian. We don't need to. My house is like Popeye's mansion. You know, the walls are punching out all the time. There's so much happiness and natural humor all day long. It lasts a minute.
I
think life should be that way.
You know what I like? I like the article in the Reader's Digest called "Laughter is the Best Medicine." Right? I prescribe that.
But artificially laughing is that good medicine?
Probably not. I would like to do a lot of time today with Lee Frank and with Roy Masters, and above all, to find out from Lee where he teaches and do you do stand-up comedy. I want to ask you all these things today, right? And I want to ask you what you think of a young fellow named Jay Leno, who was my anchor man about 40 times, and now they tell me he's the hottest young comedian, right?
Yeah.
What's he got? What's the appeal?
Well, I think just that. He's able to see the world from an angle that's slightly askew, a twisted perspective, and an irreverent angle, and he expresses it. And I think that he sees something that we all see to a certain degree. For instance, Reagan comes out and he declares war on drugs. I mean, doesn't Reagan understand that he's the reason people are doing drugs to begin with? Now, okay.
Oh, that's not funny.
Well, it is funny because it is exactly what you're saying. Because this is the world that we're dealing with. And
there's a lot of truth, because those people who are trying to help us in the mental hospitals and get us off drugs and all those programs, those are the kind of people who drive us to it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny.
The best one about Ronald Reagan, it happens to be the truth.
No, not Ronald Reagan. Leave my friend alone.
Ronald Reagan's been on the show 5 times. One of them, very big fan of this program. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been here 5 times. And somebody says that when he came to town one time, and New York was always tied up with traffic, but when he came to town, he says, there's no traffic problem. He got right through.
He goes right through.
Traffic was cleared, long before he got there. I would like to, if I may, ladies and gentlemen, say that the subject is Roy Masters and Lee Frank and what's happening in the New York and local cabaret scene. This act is getting more rave reviews, and I couldn't wait to rave about them personally on my program. It's known as Corky and the Sam Ulano Trio. Mark Shane at the piano, Jimmy Carolillo on the bass, and Sam Ulano himself on the drums. Jimmy, I want to tell you, Jimmy wants me to point out to you, which I knew anyhow, that Sam Ulano has made about 12 record albums of how to be a drummer. He's one of in the tradition of Chick Webb and Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. He is a drum star supreme. But I give you what happens now at Buster Long's in the Bronx. It sounds like we got to go there one night, right? Buster Long's and a sample of what happens out there. First song written by Ray Allen. Second song, of course, written by Mr. Gershwin. I give you Corky and the Sam Ulano Trio. And let's sing along with Ush and have a good time. Okay, Corky. Accent, famous.
Oh, man, I'm 58.
58. Way to reach my age. I'll be 100 years old Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Let me tell you that if you want to be in touch with Roy Masters on radio or TV or in books, he's a well-known author, he's a radio or TV personality. How do we tune in?
Well, OR, Saturday and Sunday night, 11 to 12, and also NCA. I'm on at the same time on both stations, 11 to midnight.
That's total saturation. Opposite me is Mr. Lee Frank, who teaches comedy, and frankly, I enjoy his columns in the National Lampoon. Now, how can I be in your class? Where's the class held?
Get in touch with Manhattan Punchline. They're over on Theater Row. I teach a class on comedy writing and performance.
Are you from Boston?
I am from Boston.
Did you pack the cast?
I actually did, right before I got here.
Lee, I want you to come down one day and organize a whole panel of stand-up comedians.
It would be fun, yeah.
Right.
I perform comedy at the Good Times in New York City on 31st and 3rd Avenues. I'm there on weekends, on Thursday. I'm at a terrific club in the Village called the Comedy Cellar.
I will be. Comedy Cellar?
Comedy Cellar.
I'll be in the audience with Roy Masters. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to pat myself on the back right now and say that